Namo Buddhaya. There are some questions and comments for me to look at and talk about. The first question comment today is from Tora. Firstly, thank you everybody for watching, and if you've subscribed, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for all of the comments, questions and emails that come in and that I receive, because it's from those that I have points to talk about which I hope are well received, being as they are inquiries from you, the people watching, rather than me just talking at you. I wouldn't want to do that. I could do that talking to myself, which brings me on to my first question from Tora about talking to oneself, which I think I mentioned in a recent talk. You say, Tora, felt talking to one's self very honestly, as in, what are my real issues? Why do they exist? Where do they come and go and keep going back and back? In tremendously, I think, is tremendously like awareness meditation. You thought that talking to yourself and being honest about real issues, why they are existing and where do they come and go from, is like awareness meditation. Okay, yes, well, what is your view? My view. So awareness meditation, one could maybe, I'm assuming you're referring to what is often called vipassana. And this is a more open, total awareness. If we think of a spotlight torch focusing on an object in the distance so that you can see it clearly, this would be what we call samadhi. A focus on one point, a meditation object like the breath, something, a word, a mantra, something like this. Or vipassana, which is a more open awareness of all that is going on and can be taken away from the formal situation of sitting meditation, where one is trying to sharpen the mental abilities in order to focus and be able to more readily adapt to open awareness, which would be more like an overall illumination from a lantern rather than a laser-like focused torch, making you more aware of everything that's going on. And this is what they call vipassana meditation. And each requires the other. You require the practice of samadhi to train the mind to be aware and be able to concentrate or remain focused on one thing for as long as possible. This is a kind of a training, like exercising a muscle to make it stronger. This helps you when you come to try to be more aware, awake, alert of all that is going on around you in your everyday activities, which is vipassana. And then also in turn, this practice of mindfulness, vipassana, open awareness in all of your activities, helps when you come to practice samadhi, this more focused view. So yes, as speech is an action, albeit an action with a classification of its own. For instance, when we ask for forgiveness in Buddhism, we ask for forgiveness of another for anything I may have done through body, speech and mind. So we have actions with our body, things we can do, actions through things we can say, and of course the way we have thought may become apparent to others in just your attitude. This is what we seek forgiveness for. So where you see actions of speech and physical actions have their own classification. Speech in terms of what you're referring to, Tora, is perhaps not necessarily speaking out loud, because you're speaking to yourself, although you could do that on your own, it's speaking to yourself in your mind. And this chitter-chatter in your mind is actually something that is going on continuously. It is thoughts. And often thoughts go into proliferation. And this proliferation is where we are almost having a debate and argument with our own thoughts as they arise. And this can open up a whole world of overthinking, let's say. In fact, interestingly enough, these questions all kind of interrelate today. So you'll see that in a minute. The way we train for that is through this practice of meditation firstly, but then what you're suggesting is it is useful to honestly look back at where these issues, let's say issues you're saying, or you could call them emotions or problems, mind states, ones you'd wish to perhaps eradicate. Where are they coming from? Where are they going to? What is the cause? This can actually be done in a separate part of your day and part of your practice, which is very important and has been referred to before in these talks, which we call reflection. Best done towards the end of the day, before maybe meditating in the evening. I mean, let me just say, I think if you're only going to have the opportunity to meditate once a day, the best time to meditate is in the morning, as close to as possible as to when you wake up. The best way to do this is set your alarm 1 hour early, and before you do anything else, meditate for 1 hour and then get up. It will be the most productive. You're less affected by the day's events and less at that point to have started worrying about the day ahead's events. But towards the end of the day, at night time, when we come to meditate, more hindrances occur. Things that have happened through the day, things you may have done you regret, things you may have done that you are pleased about, are all in your mind, and also you are ready to start to relax. And if you're meditating just before sleep, you are likely to feel tired and go to sleep. So it's a great way to relax, but this is not meditation. But it's still good. So this is perhaps your second meditation, or maybe you've meditated in your lunchtime. However, before this, we can use this opportunity, and if it's all you do before you go to sleep, a time for reflection every day is very important. And this is when you can do exactly that, Torah. You can reflect. You can talk to yourself. You can ask yourself questions. I think you say that, don't you? Questions? No, but you are implying that you're asking yourself where these issues come from. And this is what you do, yes. How did I react today? Or something happened. How did I react to that? Was it good? Was it bad? Could it have been done better? How will I deal with it next time? Ask yourself these questions. If nothing's happened in your day, and nothing much ever happens in your day, and you have nothing you think to reflect upon, you do. You can ask yourself, when I was walking to the bus, when I was driving to work, or when I was waiting for this thing to a call, or this thing to upload or download, whatever, what was I thinking about? How was I occupying my mind? Ask yourself these questions. This is really delving into your mental activity in the past 24 hours. You only need to do this for a minute at the most, a couple of minutes maybe. Just literally quickly run through your day, this reflection. And this is the time to be doing that. So in a way it is like awareness meditation, yes, like you're saying, but it's a separate part, because awareness meditation is more to do with the action parts of body and mind. Because speech is so powerful, like I spoke about yesterday, it has its own category in terms of seeking forgiveness, and in terms of its part in the Noble Eightfold Path, and even in everything we do, even whether we're speaking to other people or internal dialogue, how we run our commentary about ourselves, building ourselves up, putting ourselves down, it's all there. It's all kind of classified as speech. If you find yourself overthinking, over-talking in your mind, you would classify it, if you were using this noting practice, as hearing, because it's a kind of hearing, even though it's not an audible sound. Internally it is. It is dialogue, it is speech. Now what will happen with this practice is slowly this proliferation of speech, this debating, this arguing, this continuous discussion will slow down, will gradually become more controlled. The gaps between these conversations with yourself will become greater, and you will more readily notice the space between and be able to identify the good points, the useful points, and the not so useful points in this dialogue, in this proliferation that continues. So slightly different, but also, yes, it is awareness. And awareness is what this practice is all about. Awareness of speech, though, is deserving of its very own whole category and thought process, which should be relegated for this separate part we call reflection. Not to be used, as you may be implying here, I'm not quite sure from the way you've worded it, as your meditation object. Because that is just sitting and thinking. That is sitting, reflecting in an uncontrolled way, proliferating. We don't want to be doing that in our meditation. This is why we get all of our reflection out of the way prior to sitting in the evening, so that we can really go over our day, put it to bed, finish the day's activities of body, speech and mind, and say, that's that. I can't do anything now about that till tomorrow. When I go to sleep in an hour's time, I will not be thinking about today. I'll be asleep. And when I'm asleep, I will not be thinking about tomorrow. I'll be asleep. So for the next hour, it's like being asleep. I will be just watching the breath, or saying my mantra, or just sitting, being aware of bodily feelings. But unless you're very skilled, a meditation object at this stage of events is quite essential. Whether it's watching the breath at a point on your nose, or the whole breath as it comes in and comes out. Whether it's watching the temperature of the breath as it goes in, or the temperature of the breath coming out, to compare, to bring your attention to it and to make it interesting. If you're using the breath, use it and stick with that. It isn't boring. It sounds boring watching breathing, but when you really look into it, all kinds of manifestations of change are occurring, especially as you settle down in the evening and even in the morning. The refreshing nature of breathing in, breathing out, you will become aware of. The enjoyable activity of breathing, the pleasure, like drinking a very beautiful cold drink on a hot summer's day when you're thirsty. It's refreshing, revitalizing, re-energizing each and every breath in, and then as you breathe out, you relax. So it's a wonderful meditation object. I don't usually talk about other meditation objects, and the Buddha used this as well as his primary meditation object in his talks and how he became enlightened. So, I hope I've answered that. Thank you for your question, Tora Tora. Next question, Quan Cheng. Oh, thanks for the video. Is it possible for you to do a... Oh, I think you're referring to the guided meditation video. Okay, well, yes, you must be. Thanks for the video. Is it possible for you to do a 2 to 3 hour one? You don't have to say anything after the first few sentences. I just want to feel like I'm guided for that long session, as I struggle to sit past an hour. Well, actually, I have been thinking about this, and a little experiment to that effect was my broom sweeping video, and so was this guided meditation. Rather than I was working something out I could do to that effect. It's no problem for me to sit and give a guided meditation. I wouldn't speak for 3 hours because I'd meditate myself, but lead people in, help with pointers as and when is necessary, but really just lead people in, lead people out, and sit with you. In terms of a live environment, in terms of a retreat environment, And it can very easily ordinarily be done in terms of a making and recording possibility. I can do that no problem at all. I can just, and in fact it's better for me because I can just put the camera on when I'm meditating, but rather than just going straight into my meditation, I can give a little guidance first, a little talk, and include you with me. The problem comes with me uploading it. It takes about 8 to 10 hours for me to upload a 40-minute video like this. So how long would it take to upload 2 to 3 hours? Let's just say it was let's just be realistic and say in 1 hour guided meditation video. No, let's say 2.5 hours. Unless you're really meditating regularly. I mean, I meditate for 2-hour sessions and 3-hour sessions quite regularly, but not many people are doing that. Normally they would be meditating for 40 minutes to an hour maximum, then practicing walking meditation for say 20 minutes to half an hour, and then going back to sitting. So I think really an hour is enough. If you're meditating for an hour, after you're saying that because you struggle to get past the hour. So if it was hour and a half, if you got through to an hour and a half, you could then happily continue even after the video stopped, as long as your phone doesn't then flick onto something random, or sorry, YouTube, whatever you're watching it on, flick onto something random as soon as the video finishes. No, but essentially it's no problem. I can do anything, but uploading it is a problem. Because it's not only the time it takes. You can get here in Thailand, I think the normal speed data is unlimited. It doesn't run out of data. And actually it's not the time it takes to upload. It can be uploading in the background for 3 days and it doesn't bother me. But you have to power these things. And electricity isn't that available in the jungle. So I'm having to go and charge these phones up and a battery power pack, which is fine for ordinary use, but for this uploading it requires a lot more power. It also requires I don't want to go into all this boring stuff, but I have to use 2 phones for this purpose, because one has to hotspot the other one because one is used for the making of the video and the other is used for ordinary purposes, but that's the one that needs to have the SIM card and needs to be hotspotting the other phone, so that battery runs out quickly too. And they're quite relatively new phones and they're very good batteries because they last all day without charge, but then they both need charging at the same time. I could go on, and I've got one tiny little plug socket thing which is on the end of a thin wire, and you don't want to be doubling up. There isn't really the facility to do that. So this is real life monasticism in the forest, but I'm working on it. It's an idea and I will try it and see what I can do. If you have any ideas, suggestions, or where you could help by me sending some, I don't know, short videos or something and you putting them together, or whatever suggestions you might have, I welcome those suggestions. But I see the point and the idea, although meditation is not about sitting watching a video. It's about feeling you're like being in a group meditation session. It's an extra added layer of discipline. The way around it, one good way around it, is if there is more than say 2 or 3 people interested, I will happily do this live, a live guided meditation sitting for as long as you like. That doesn't require any uploading down, that just is more easily done. It will upload and be on the on YouTube later on afterwards, but for some reason that seems to be, it's streaming, you see. It's a different thing. I'm not very worldly wise with these words, but that's one possibility, and you may feel included, but then the issue comes with time zones, doesn't it? Anyway, perhaps I've spoken a little bit too much about that one, so thank you though for your suggestion, Quan, and I'm very happy that you are watching. Keep watching, and I will try to reproduce and give you something more to help you in the future. So next question is from Sachin Pandey. Sachin Pandey. Can we know more about your life, like how you followed this path of being a monk? What was your early life? And then also, please make a short video up to 10 to 15 minutes, so quite the opposite. As today's fast-moving world and social media has reduced our concentration powers, if you have any tips to increase it, please let me know. Okay, I'll address the second part of that first. Make short videos because nobody has an attention span anymore. Well, I've noticed that since when I was in India, I was on public transport a fair bit. Before that, not for a long time. I hadn't needed to go anywhere, or everything was organised for me. But there I was getting buses, and or even anywhere, even in the temple, people coming, well, on their phones like this, and I'd look like this nosy person over someone's shoulder, because they're always on their phones, and you see this on the tube, on the metro, whatever, and they're always boom, 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 boom. And I looked and I thought, they're watching videos, but they're not even watching the videos. They see, like, chum, they like, chum, like this. And I was thinking, that's exactly the opposite of meditation, where we're trying to actually bring our mind to a, not to stop, but to stop this jumping from one thing to the other. Now, meditators have this expression, monkey mind. If you see a monkey, there's a video of a monkey here somewhere on this channel, they jump from, we stay in one tree all day, they jump from one tree to the other, and I've got a video on here of a whole troop of monkeys doing that, where I was staying before, in that coconut grove. And they wrecked the coconut grove eventually. It was quite a disaster for the locals. Anyway, they jump, 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 as do our thoughts. And the process of meditation is to, like, put a leash on this, like taming a horse, to bring our attention to a central focus point or meditation object, like a stake with a rope to a horse that's galloping, galloping, galloping. Slowly it will slow down until you can tame it enough to get on it and train this wild animal. Like these monkeys jumping from tree to tree, they seem unable to stop, like our thoughts. But by focusing on one meditation object, if there was just one tree, they'd all be in the one tree, for sure. Where else would they go? This is what we're doing. So, you say, if you have any tips to increase it, well, you need to practice meditation. And this is what this channel is all about. So watch this channel and we will talk more and more about meditation as time goes on. And making shorter videos is only going to encourage people to not think, not be able to concentrate. One practice is listening to Dharma talks. Now, I know I say these aren't Dharma talks, but in a way they are. By listening to Dharma talks, you're at least addressing you're directing your awareness, your attention to listening to the Dharma, listening to what someone is saying, even if you don't really fully understand or even want to understand what is being said. Just listening to the voice of another who is talking about something relatively neutral but wholesome, so not anything that dramatic to evoke many emotions. Even just listening to the space between the words is in itself a way of practicing to bring your focus, your attention to something singular. And you could say, well, I'll listen to this whole talk for 30 minutes and I won't flick to the next thing. I'll listen to the end. One reason to listen to the end, I usually put the best and most valid point at the very end. And most people will miss that. And I know that that's the case. But these talks are not planned, never planned. They're not even timed. Every time I sit down to talk to you, I mean to look at the time so that I don't go on for too long. I never remember, and if I do, I don't remember the time. So it's just chance, by chance, that they end up at around 30 or 40 minutes. And that was also the average length of any Dharma talk you hear. Why that is, I don't know. It's some mystery in human psychology. If we talk about something, we tend to talk about it for 40 minutes. If you remember back at school, I don't know whether this was all schools, but I think most school educational periods are 40 minutes. And if you have a double lesson, double maths or double physics, and it's going to be 80, it was just the most horrible thought, you know, oh, that for 80 minutes. But no, these 40-minute sections seem to be easier for us to deal with, easier than 60 minutes. The same when we first start to meditate. We may start at 10, 20, go to 40 and sit at 40 for some time. 40 minutes is quite good, a bit longer than half an hour, not quite an hour. You could also say it's half an hour with 10 minutes of mucking about, which is like a classroom, but also like when you sit to meditate. 10 minutes of mucking about before you really settle down, only half an hour of, probably only 10 minutes of really meditating. My talking, you could probably reduce the content down to about 3-4 minutes. Most of it's waffle. And it's, however, that packaging. It's that packaging to get those valid points out, like the foam worms, the plastic bags and the cardboard boxes that I was talking about that come from Amazon to package those words, those items. Sometimes we need something to soften the blow, to bring it into focus, and then you can understand. We can apply it to ourselves. So I have tried this. I thought it would be more manageable because it's also been suggested a couple of other times. I thought I'd try 20 minutes and 15 minutes and 10. But it is very difficult. One way I could do it with questions and answers is say, right, only answer 2 questions and then move on. But the questions always seem to kind of relate. Like this one is relating to the first question about talking things through and reflection, and in a way it relates to the second question, which is about the 2 to 3 hour video, in the fact that it's the opposite, it's wanting shorter videos. And I think that's because excuse me, because the questions and comments are kind of organic, because they're coming from you watching the previous videos. So it's not just coincidence, it's cause and effect. If you've all watched the same videos, you're going to ask similar questions. So if I just answer 2 questions, then you can't see the close relationship between the questions, which I think is also useful. So for now, I'm going to probably keep the video length to 30 to 40 minutes. It's also more manageable for me. I can do it in one go. However, if you want some fast action and some shorts, I think there's something like 500 maybe short videos of less than 60 seconds on this channel. You can go into the channel when you click the circle with my face in and get the channel up and just put shorts, and you can put this on constant play. And if you're one of these people that sits on the bus going do, 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 please do that with those shorts. It will do the channel good, and actually there's some very useful and valid content. It's not just me, it's things that I've seen on my travels that can be applied to Dharma and are very interesting, some of them very beautiful things I've seen, and I talk about the Dharma in 60-second slots. So you can watch, if there's about 500, which I'm sure there probably is, well, that's 500 minutes. And you can watch as many or as less as those, as quickly or as slowly as you like. So there's plenty of those on here, and they're not just promotions for, in fact most of them are not promotions for other videos. I think the most recent one, for instance, was leaves of a tree. Okay, that was in a way leading to another video, but usually all of the ones from India of cows and things like that, they're not really about cows. They're about the practice of metta, developing metta. They're about all kinds of topics of Dharma. So put them on, just play. You know, when it just keep your phone, your YouTube channel just keeps playing one video after the next, after the next, after the next. If you can bear it, that is. I couldn't, not my own, but maybe it's of interest. Yeah, that could be a useful exercise. Also, it's giving you the satisfaction of using your monkey mind jumping ability, but it's also keeping it on one topic, a relatively neutral but wholesome topic. So the other thing is with the long video, and this is my naivety about how YouTube works and modern things like this, I'm not sure how it would work with adverts. I mean, maybe surely wouldn't adverts pop up? So say you're in third jhana and an advert for such and such, bing bing bing, would this not come up? I don't know. I mean, I don't think people advertise on monastic Dharma talk channels, because we don't buy anything, monks, and we kind of encourage people not to. So it wouldn't be a good medium. But thank you for suggestions. I hope I've answered. Did I answer both questions? Oh yes, well, with regards to my life, again, if you go to the older videos and look at the old description of the channel, which I've now changed, was a short biography of my life up until, well, a few weeks ago. And it's a bit very short, so it's a bit, how do you say, not very poetic, put it that way, but it's to the point. That will answer all your questions about my life so far and how I came to be here, albeit not in a very interesting way, and it leaves out all of the detail, of course. If you want to read that, it's there on any of the older videos from 3 or 4 weeks back that have they all have a description. It's exactly the same, copied, cut and pasted on every video. So it's there. It's less than 1,000 words long, and that's my whole life in less than 1,000, sorry, characters, less than 1,000 characters long. However, I will make a video. I've been resisting this, but I will make a video all about that in the near future, because it is something people want to know, and it's not irrelevant. It's not so much as it's about me, it's because you take bits from it to apply to yourself. The reason I resist it is because I don't like talking about myself and my own situation. It's not relevant, it's the past from my point of view. What's relevant from my point of view is now. Not even the future, just now. However, I do appreciate that other people are in a different position and would like to relate it to someone else, something else. And this is how I came to be here, by reading biographies of monks, seriously highly attained monks of the past, like Ajahn Mun and Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Panyawado, and all of these wonderful teachers of ours. And those biographies were my biggest incentive and most foundational basis of my learning, because their reference to the Dharma is applicable to daily life. So I will try and make such a thing. Sachin. So thank you for your question. And finally, two short questions. That doesn't mean the answer's short though, does it? The first question, the two short questions from the same, I'm not sure how to say this, Kai Nguyen. I think maybe is that Japanese or Korean? Or I wouldn't know. Kai, apologies if I'm not pronouncing any of these names. My caveat is that they're only usernames or whatever, so they might not be your real names. But Kai, this Nguyen, sounds like a real name. Have you read the Old Testament? Well, a long time ago, in bits of it. I went to a Catholic school, which mainly deals with the New Testament, but in religious education, which was only the Abrahamic faiths, this sort of Old Testament and New Testament in a Catholic school. We did study the Old Testament, and in my own time I've read the Old Testament in part and, well, in parts. And I did once attempt to read it from cover to cover, But like the suttas, you tend not to. You start to do that, it seems like a good idea, then you start skipping from bit to bit, and eventually it all comes together. So yes, and I found it a very interesting, fascinating, good read. And but I wouldn't have anything more to say about it than that. And I'm not really sure what the point of the question. It may have been you were referring to one of my videos, the shorts. If you go back looking at these shorts, quite a few of them I mentioned Jesus. The reason I was mentioning Jesus a lot at the time was I was on my arms around walking past a lot of Christian churches, and it reminded me of the similarity of the teachings of Jesus and the similarity of all religions, in fact, because I was also going past mosques and things, in that they all really do promote kindness, loving kindness to each other. And in that sense, all religions are the same. I'm very ecumenical. I like all religions. And when not misunderstood, when not misused, religions are a good thing. Yeah, that might have made you think that. And yes, when I come from a Christian country. I mean, it's not a Christian country like, say, Thailand, a Buddhist country. It doesn't have the strict, it doesn't have the, it's kind of an optional extra, being Christian, whereas, say, in a country like Thailand, a Buddhist country, you're born Buddhist and it's very much part of your life. So yeah, I mean, it was part of my education and background. Not so much the Old Testament, but from my point of view, I was interested in that because I like to understand things and get to the bottom of things. And obviously when you're reading the New Testament, you know it comes off the back of something. You know that it didn't just start there, because even Jesus was referring to aspects of life that were before his time. So one likes to investigate, as I did. Anyway, it was interesting. Good story. Adam and Eve and all that. It's, you know, it's a good story. Whether you choose to believe it or not, it doesn't matter. It's an imponderable question. We can't know the truth, can we? It can't be known. So I wouldn't worry about trying to establish whether it's true or not, because we can't. It's better to find out how we can be free from suffering or develop contentment and therefore happiness now, in this moment, in this lifetime, with what we know. And the Buddha really only taught what we know, the truth, the Four Noble Truths. And your second question, oh, you didn't know meditation is so simple and easy. Thanks a lot. I think this refers to the video which was just the end clip of another video just in the last couple of days, where I said just breathe in, breathe out, and you're meditating. People say they haven't got time to meditate, and Ajahn Chah said, you always, if you've got time to breathe, you have time to meditate. And it's true. Again, if you go back through those old videos, they're not that old. I mean, I've only been doing this for 4 or 5 months, 5 months now, but there's a lot of them. The shorts, there's quite a few short videos like that, just how to meditate, do walking meditation, how to meditate in busy places, walking around a town, where I actually do it and demonstrate. So it's worth flicking through those shorts, because you can, as I say, just put them on running through, and those little, like that short video, but a little bit more specific, because that was just a clip from another longer video, but they're a bit more specific, so it's worth going back on this channel, going back to look at the older videos now if you haven't. And there's different scenery in the background too. But I think I'm a bit more stressed in the older videos, and I'm a lot more relaxed now. And it's nothing to do with getting used to doing this, because this is just the same, really. I'm in a much more relaxed and conducive environment for living, let alone practicing as a Buddhist monk or being a Buddhist monk. certainly as being a Buddhist monk, because it's such a beautiful country to live in anyway, here, Thailand, but for Buddhist monks we're so well supported and looked after. The causes and conditions around us are such that this country produces a lot of arahants, enlightened beings, and it's not surprising. But if you're constantly fighting against the mainstream in very, very busy places, countries, wherever they may be, and argument after argument after debate about what you just know is the truth, so what's the question really? It gets less conducive to the practice of developing wholesome mind states and reducing unwholesome mind states. And to some extent, the unwholesome mind states of, let's say, ill will, are disturbed. They come a little to the surface, which is why practicing a lot of metta, which is the antidote to ill will, anger, hatred, is a good practice. So before I was practicing a lot of metta with cows, because I was having quite a bit of difficulty with the humans. That speaks for itself. If you look through the history of these videos, I'm sure it's evident. And I should say no more than that before this axe in my mouth. Remember, the Buddha said your voice, your speaking, is like an axe in your mouth. You wouldn't just throw it at anyone, would you? And you've got to be a bit careful here, because you don't know how many people that axe is being thrown at. And I love India, and most of the people watching this channel are, I think 50%, something like that, nearly, are from India. Partly because of the just general size of the population, of course, but those folks have a genuine interest in the alternative, the teachings of the Buddha, to all of their other religions that they have at their fingertips. It's a very religious country. I'd say it's a very religious country. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a very spiritual country. It depends on your definition of religious and definition of spiritual. But I won't go on to that now. That can be saved for another video in the future, when I hope you'll still be watching. And if you haven't, please subscribe. And I've got no exciting tidbit at the end today, as I just mentioned that there would be, only because it hasn't sprung to mind. Nothing has sprung to mind. They're not planned. I just speak, well, I look at the questions, on these questions and answers, and whatever comes out of my mouth, I hope it is useful, and if it's not, you can leave it alone. If it is, please use it. So thank you for watching. Namo Buddhaya.